Have you ever walked away from a conversation with someone and just felt, entirely depleted?
Oh, yeah, that heavy feeling.
Right. Like you aren't overtly angry and they didn't even insult you, but your body feels heavy, your mind is all foggy, and you suddenly feel somehow, I don't know, smaller than you did 20 minutes ago.
It's so common.
You run the interaction back in your head looking for the aggressive comment, but on paper, the conversation looks totally normal. Yet you are completely exhausted.
It is a deeply disorienting experience, and it's almost always followed by self-doubt.
Oh, for sure.
You start analyzing your own reactions, wondering if you're just being, like, overly sensitive, or if you somehow manufactured the tension yourself.
Yeah, the classic, is it just me?
Exactly. But I really want to validate that physical sensation right out of the gate for you, that feeling of being drained.
Yeah.
That isn't you overthinking.
No.
That is your nervous system registering a subtle psychological toll. Your body is incredibly adept at recognizing when someone is, violating your boundaries or manipulating your reality.
Even if your brain hasn't caught up yet.
Right. Even if your conscious, logical brain hasn't quite put the pieces together.
And that physical sensation is exactly what we are focusing on today. We have a fascinating source document in front of us titled The Invisible Drain: 7 Toxic Personalities You Must Learn to Spot.
It's a fantastic guide.
It really is. Our goal today is to give you the vocabulary for what your nervous system already knows. For those of you specifically seeking recovery from toxic relationship cycles, understanding these underlying dynamics is, well, it's essential.
You can't break a cycle you can't see.
Exactly. So we are going to explore the hidden behavior, the power dynamics, and the psychological mechanisms behind these archetypes so you can stop bleeding energy and, start reclaiming your autonomy.
The overarching theme of these toxic cycles is that they rarely begin with a dramatic, cinematic explosion.
Right. They sneak in.
They take root quietly. They begin with individuals who systematically dismantle your internal compass. Because if they can disrupt your ability to trust yourself, they make you infinitely easier to control.
That strategy is just perfectly encapsulated by the first invisible drain in our guide, The Reality Twister.
Yes, the classic gaslighter.
Right. This is the archetype most people recognize as the gaslighter. But what the source material highlights is their terrifying precision and, their calm demeanor.
It's not usually aggressive.
No. You confront them about something they explicitly said yesterday, and without blinking, they just tell you that never happened, or your memory's getting really bad.
Yeah.
It isn't a shouting match. It's a quiet, methodical denial of fact.
The psychological mechanism at play here is cognitive dissonance. The reality twister isn't actually trying to win a debate about whether a specific event occurred.
Wait, they aren't?
No, they're playing a much longer game. Their objective is to undermine your foundational trust in your own perception.
Oh, I see.
If they can repeatedly inject a tiny bit of doubt into your memory, your brain enters a state of persistent confusion.
And that takes so much energy.
It takes a massive amount of mental energy to constantly fight for your version of reality, so you just surrender. You start relying on them to tell you what happened.
Okay, that makes sense logically, but it also sounds incredibly difficult to spot in the heat of the moment. I mean, if I'm in the middle of an intense disagreement with someone, how do I actually know if my memory is just flawed, which happens to all of us, or if I am actively being reality twisted?
That's a great question. It really comes down to the pattern of the response.
Okay.
A healthy person who genuinely remembers an event differently will say something like, that's strange. I recall that conversation going another way, or let's figure out where we crossed wires.
They leave room for a misunderstanding.
Exactly. They leave room for 2 different human experiences. The reality twister leaves no room.
They just shut it down.
They make authoritative, absolute declarations about your mental state. You are imagining things. You are crazy. They don't just deny the event. They attack your cognitive capability.
It reminds me of a computer hacker, honestly.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, the reality twister isn't using a battering ram to smash into your life. They are quietly rewriting your mental operating system in the background.
Right.
They alter the code just enough so that you eventually look at your own firewall, decide it's completely broken, and voluntarily hand over your password.
Wow, yeah.
You give up your autonomy because you genuinely believe your internal systems can no longer be trusted.
That is a highly accurate way to conceptualize it. You are literally handing over the keys to your reality.
And that leaves you so exposed.
It does.
Yeah.
And when your confidence is already wobbly from someone questioning your memory, you become incredibly vulnerable to the next archetype, which seeks to dismantle your ambition. The dream assassin.
Hmm. This one feels particularly insidious because the dream assassin is rarely an actual enemy.
No, it's usually someone close.
It's usually someone intimately close to you, a partner, a parent, a lifelong friend. You come to them with a fragile, newly formed idea. Maybe it's a career pivot, a creative project, or a desire to move to a new city.
And they just crush it.
Right before the idea can even take its first breath, they suffocate it. They call it unrealistic. They guarantee you will fail. Or they insist they are just playing devil's advocate.
The phrase, just being practical, is the dream assassin's absolute favorite camouflage.
Oh, I've heard that one before.
But we have to look at the psychology of why they do this.
Yeah.
The crucial insight from the source material is that their immediate rejection has absolutely nothing to do with your capabilities.
Wait, really? Nothing?
Nothing. It is entirely about their own limitations. When you propose stepping out of the known, predictable world, it threatens them. It holds up a mirror to their own stagnation.
Okay, I want to challenge that slightly, though.
Sure.
Because sometimes our dreams are genuinely terrible ideas. Like, if I tell my best friend I'm quitting my stable job tomorrow to become a professional unicycle rider with zero experience, I want them to tell me it's a bad idea.
Fair point.
So how do we distinguish between a toxic dream assassin and a genuine realist who is just trying to save us from a massive mistake?
It is a vital distinction. And it revolves entirely around curiosity versus termination.
Curiosity versus termination.
A genuine realist,
Yeah.
like a true friend,
Right.
will ask questions. They will help you pressure test the idea.
Right.
They might say, that sounds exciting, but how are you going to pay rent while you learn to ride the unicycle?
They point out the real world problems.
Exactly. They point out the logistical potholes so you can navigate around them. They want to see the idea survive contact with reality.
And the dream assassin.
The dream assassin does not ask questions. They make declarative statements designed to terminate the conversation entirely. They don't want you to navigate the potholes. They want you to take the keys out of the ignition and stay parts exactly where you are.
Because if you succeed, it invalidates their excuses for not chasing their own ambitions.
Yes.
They are shrinking your world so it fits comfortably inside their own comfort zone.
Precisely. And when you are surrounded by people who twist your reality and shoot down your aspirations, your self-esteem takes a massive hit.
You just feel so small.
You start feeling isolated. And that isolation primes you for the second phase of these toxic cycles, the exploitation of your trust.
Which brings us to a personality that uses comfort as a weapon. The promise breaker.
This one is tough.
It really is.
Yeah.
The promise breaker relies heavily on the intoxicating comfort of language. They are absolute masters of the reassuring phrase.
They know exactly what you want to hear.
Yes. They look you in the eye and say, I promise I'll change. I will absolutely be there for you, or you can count on me. And in that moment, your nervous system just relaxes.
You feel safe.
But the second those words require actual logistical follow-through, the person completely vanishes.
The mechanism here is what psychologists call an intermittent reinforcement schedule. It is the exact same psychological hook used in slot machines.
Oh, wow. Slot machines.
Yeah. If the promise breaker disappointed you 100% of the time, you would easily walk away.
Right. It would be obvious.
The danger is that occasionally they do come through. They give you just enough warmth and just enough follow-through to keep you pulling the lever, waiting for the jackpot of a reliable partner or friend.
But people get overwhelmed, you know. Modern life is chaotic, emergencies happen, and everyone occasionally drops the ball.
True.
Are we implying that anyone who cancels plans or forgets a commitment is exhibiting toxic behavior?
No, we have to differentiate between human fallibility and systemic manipulation.
Okay, how so?
A healthy person who breaks a promise feels genuine remorse. They apologize, they explain the context, and they actively repair the trust.
They make it right.
Right. With the promise breaker, the broken promise isn't a mistake, it is a behavioral feature.
Oh.
They use the promise as a currency to buy your patience and your goodwill in the present moment.
Just to smooth things over right now.
Exactly. They say yes, simply to avoid the immediate discomfort of conflict, with zero intention of paying off that emotional debt in the future.
That's devastating.
The damage isn't just the wasted afternoon you spent waiting for them. The true damage is the slow, systematic theft of your ability to trust anyone.
You just stop believing that words have meaning. And that erosion of trust is painful. But it becomes utterly devastating when we look at the next archetype, someone who actively weaponizes the trust you do manage to give them, the backstabber.
The backstabber operates almost entirely under the guise of deep psychological safety.
They seem so nice at first.
They don't appear threatening at all. They smile, they make steady eye contact, they listen intently, and they actively invite your vulnerability.
Yeah.
They create a conversational environment where you feel naturally compelled to share your private struggles, your insecurities, or your secrets.
But it's really just a data gathering mission.
It is entirely transactional, because eventually those deeply private moments are repurposed. Your vulnerability becomes their storytelling material. They trade your pain or your embarrassment for social currency with other people. They use your secrets to position themselves as the center of attention in another room.
You know, the source notes touch on a biological reality here. Betrayal from a familiar face shatters our emotional foundation in a way an enemy never could.
It's a completely different level of trauma.
Right. If a stranger on the internet insults me, my brain processes it as a transient threat. I can brush it off. But if the person holding my deepest secrets uses them for entertainment, it violates my core attachment network.
Yes, it signals to your brain that the tribe itself is no longer safe.
And that violation triggers a massive physiological stress response. You become hypervigilant. You start constantly scanning your environment for threats, which is neurologically exhausting.
It drains you completely.
And that transition into shoe exhaustion is exactly where the next phase of the invisible drain takes over. We move away from the active betrayal of trust and into the crushing daily fatigue of managing another person's emotional equilibrium.
Which perfectly introduces the chaos magnet.
Oh boy, the chaos magnet.
The source text describes them as living in a constant state of unprecedented disaster. Every single day brings a new crisis.
It's always something. Always. Their car breaks down. They're inexplicably feuding with their entire family. Their romantic life is a burning building. They are surrounded by constant emotional turbulence.
And we have to look at the role you are forced to play in this dynamic. The chaos magnet does not manage their own turbulence.
No, they pull you into it.
You are repeatedly forced to suit up as the rescue team. You drop your own priorities to lend them money, to mediate their conflicts, to soothe their panic. But the tragic realization is that nothing you do ever actually stabilizes them.
You solve the crisis on Tuesday, and by Thursday, a structurally identical crisis has materialized.
Exactly. So what is actually happening here? Why is it human nature to keep running into the burning building for them, rather than just walking away from the fire?
We keep running in because our own empathy is being weaponized against us. We are socially and biologically conditioned to assist people in distress.
Right. It feels like the right thing to do. When someone presents as a victim, our instinct is to save them. But with a chaos magnet, you have to realize that the chaos is not an accident. The chaos is their preferred comfort zone.
Wait, they like the chaos.
Stability requires accountability. If their life is peaceful, they have to look inward and address their own flaws. Constant chaos allows them to perpetually play the victim, demand endless attention, and completely avoid taking responsibility for their life.
So by playing the rescuer, you're actually feeding the cycle. You become an enabler.
Yes. In psychological terms, you are trapped in the drama triangle. They play the victim, they cast the world as the persecutor, and they assign you the role of the rescuer.
And round we go.
As long as you play your part, the play continues indefinitely. And over time, as you manage their artificial storms, you completely deplete the energy required to build a peaceful life for yourself.
They are loud and demanding. But that brings us to an archetype that operates on a much quieter, more insidious frequency. The energy vampire.
The energy vampire does not need a crisis. They don't call you in a panic.
No, it's more subtle.
Instead, the interaction is a slow, relentless leak of your vitality. They are chronic complainers, they criticize everyone, they dwell exclusively on the negative, and they find the dark cloud in every silver lining.
To use a mechanical analogy, if the chaos magnet is a blaring car alarm that forces you to run outside, the energy vampire is like a corrupted, parasitic app running in the background of your phone.
That is a perfect analogy.
You don't actively see it open on your screen, but it is quietly draining your emotional battery to 1% by noon.
That is exactly how the drain functions. And what is vital to understand is that the energy vampire does not want a solution to their problems.
They really don't.
If you offer practical advice, they will find 10 reasons why it won't work. They don't want to fix the issue. They simply need a container to dump their negative emotional waste into.
And you become the container.
Because you are empathetic and willing to listen, you slowly become that container. They offload their heavy emotions onto you. They walk away feeling significantly lighter, and you walk away feeling like you are carrying a lead weight.
You are functioning as an emotional landfill. All of their psychological toxic waste is being dumped directly into your ecosystem.
It's exhausting.
So for the listener who is realizing they are currently serving as a landfill for someone, how do you step back without feeling a crushing amount of guilt?
The guide offers a profound shift in perspective for recovery. Protecting your energy from these archetypes is not a selfish act. It is required maintenance.
Required maintenance. I love that.
We view boundary setting as a hostile action, but it is actually an act of psychological survival.
Yeah.
Saying, I do not have the emotional bandwidth to discuss this right now, is simply stating a biological fact. You cannot pour water from a completely empty cup.
Required maintenance. You would not drive a vehicle for 10,000 miles without changing the oil and genuinely expect the engine to survive. Yet we allow people to drain our emotional reserves daily and wonder why our mental health is failing.
And if you refuse to perform that required maintenance, if you do not set those boundaries, you become highly susceptible to the final and arguably most destructive stage of these toxic cycles.
The complete erasure of your identity.
Yes.
Which brings us to the ultimate culmination of the invisible drain, the narcissist. This personality type takes all the draining elements we just discussed and centralizes them around one absolute core function.
The narcissist turns every single interaction into a mirror reflecting only themselves.
Always.
They have a masterful, almost gravity-defying ability to pull the center of the universe back to their own ego.
It is genuinely wild to observe once you know what you are looking at. You come to them with a massive, life-changing win. You finally got that promotion you worked years for.
And within 30 seconds,
the conversation is entirely about them. How your promotion impacts their commute, what they think about your new boss, or how it reminds them of a promotion they received 5 years ago.
and it operates exactly the same way with your pain.
Right.
When you have a genuine struggle, it is not met with empathy. Your pain is treated as a structural interruption to their life. It is an inconvenience.
It's just a roadblock for them.
They might sigh, look at their watch, or immediately change the subject to a minor inconvenience they experienced that day.
Wow.
The terrifying result of this dynamic, especially if you are locked in a long-term relationship or family dynamic with this person, is that you slowly cease to exist. Your needs, your stories, your wins, your fears, they have absolutely no space to breathe.
I want to dig into the intent behind this, though. When they treat your life as an interruption, is it a conscious strategy? Like, is the narcissist sitting there rubbing their hands together like a supervillain, actively plotting to erase you from the narrative? Or is it a complete psychological blind spot?
For the vast majority, it is a profound structural blind spot.
Really?
Yes, it comes down to a clinical concept known as object constancy and emotional empathy. Object constancy is a developmental milestone.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
It is the ability to maintain a positive emotional bond with another person, even when that person is not directly serving your immediate needs, or even when you're frustrated with them. You recognize them as a separate, fully realized human being.
Right.
True narcissists fundamentally lack this capability. They genuinely do not perceive you as a three-dimensional entity with a rich inner life. They perceive you either as an extension of themselves or as a tool designed exclusively to regulate their fragile self-esteem.
So when you suddenly have a need of your own, it feels to them like a betrayal.
Exactly. Imagine if your arm suddenly decided it wanted to go to the movies while you were trying to work.
That'd be pretty annoying.
You wouldn't feel empathy for the arm. You would just feel frustrated that your tool wasn't functioning the way you demanded.
Oh my goodness.
That is how the narcissist views your autonomy. They aren't necessarily plotting your erasure. Your erasure is simply the required byproduct of their need to occupy all available space in order to feel safe.
That is deeply chilling. Your erasure is just a side effect of their survival mechanism, but the result for the listener is entirely the same, regardless of the intent. You end up drained, exhausted, and feeling like a voiceless extra in a movie where you were supposed to be the co-star.
Which is exactly why understanding the mechanics behind these 7 types, the reality twister, the dream assassin, the promise breaker, the backstabber, the chaos magnet, the energy vampire, and the narcissist is the mandatory first step in recovery.
You have to see the mechanics to dismantle the machine.
Exactly.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to speak directly to you, the listener. If specific faces, names, or memories were surfacing in your mind while we explored these archetypes, please understand that it is not a coincidence.
Trust that feeling.
That discomfort you are feeling in your chest right now, that is the dawn of awareness. And awareness is the absolute beginning of your freedom. You can't patch a leak in your life if you don't know where the water is escaping. Now you have the vocabulary to see the cracks.
And I want to offer a final reframe regarding the profound fatigue you might be experiencing.
Yes, please?
If you have spent months, years, or even decades managing these personalities, you are undoubtedly exhausted. But I want you to realize that your exhaustion is not evidence that you are weak or incapable or broken.
It's just evidence of physics.
Exactly. You are tired because you have been carrying emotional weight that was never yours to bear in the first place.
Wow.
You've been carrying the reality twister's insecurities, the chaos magnet's refusal to be accountable, and the energy vampire's toxic waste. Putting that weight down will make you instantly lighter.
You do not have to fix everyone. You do not have to suit up as the rescue team for people who love the storm. And most importantly, you do not have to remain in relationships or environments where the price of admission is shrinking yourself.
It's not worth it.
Setting a hard boundary and stepping away is the most powerful tool you possess to protect your neurological peace.
Reclaiming your reality is the ultimate act of self-preservation.
But I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over as you go about your day. We have spent this entire deep dive looking outward, analyzing how other people might be draining our reserves.
All right.
But human psychology is incredibly complex, and none of us operate flawlessly all the time. If these toxic behaviors can so easily disguise themselves as practical advice, deep intimacy, or friendship, how might we, completely unknowingly, be playing one of these 7 roles in someone else's story?
That requires a level of deep, uncomfortable self-awareness, but it is a question worth asking.
Take a close look at the invisible forces in your life. Do not ignore your nervous system when an interaction leaves you feeling smaller. Trust your physical instincts, protect your boundaries, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.
If you like this video, share with your friends, subscribe our channel. Thank you.